we are mildly interesting guys, and we talk about some stuff. So welcome to the podcast, we call it Joel the Podcast. It's Alex and it's Alex, here for Joel the Podcast. Bzz. Hello everybody, I'm Alex.
And I'm Alex.
And this is our podcast, Joel. Welcome to episode 67, is that right? 67 of Joel the Podcast.
I think that's right.
And we are here with a new episode format, so everybody get excited, because I just came up with it 5 minutes ago. First I wanted to start off by letting everyone know that Nathan does not owe me $1 anymore.
Oh no! I just dropped my lamp. I was trying to adjust it, and it fell.
For everyone, Nathan's normal lights in his room have been burnt out, so he's using, like, a spotlight, basically, to light his room.
It's like a regular desk lamp, but pointed at my face so that Alex can see me. So that's the most important part of the podcast, really, is making sure Alex can see me. Right.
So, as I just mentioned, Nathan does not owe me $1.
And Alex doesn't owe me $1.
But that wasn't true as recently as this afternoon, when Nathan had not paid me $1 for Purdue's defeat at the hands of Northwestern this weekend,
which
leads us straight into sports.
Yeah, very, very disappointing, but honestly not all that surprising. I think that, as you said, Purdue lost to Northwestern this week.
I would think that you might be surprised, given that you were confident enough to bet $1 on them winning.
Well, I am confident enough to bet $1, but that doesn't mean that I'm surprised.
I guess. Okay. I mean, the way you just phrased it implied that you expected them to lose, so...
Well,
that's a...
Maybe in some sense I did, but... I think the most honest way to put it is that I knew Northwestern was good, and I knew Purdue was probably okay,
right,
but not so good that I would consider betting on them very seriously against a good team. Like, I think Purdue is at a point this season where they will probably beat all of the very bad teams, and then anywhere from like mediocre team to pretty good team, they've got a solid chance.
Right.
And then any of the very good teams, they, will probably lose.
And by any of the very good teams, you mean IU?
I don't actually... Okay, so maybe this is a bit of a controversial opinion, but I'm still not all that convinced that IU is good. I mean, they're good, but they're not, like,
yeah, the thing
unbeatable.
Is, what's weird to me is that they're undefeated, and Penn State is winless, and those two went into overtime.
That's the thing.
And IU won on the closest play I've ever seen.
Exactly. So and
like,
I think that's part of the that's why I still need some more convince. So let's look at IU.
Right.
For longer than we've talked about Purdue, which is blasphemy on this podcast, but here we go.
May as well stop talking
Penn State
right now.
In the closest game in overtime on the closest play ever.
Right.
Basically, it was a toss-up, and whatever was called on the field was going to stand. We already discussed that.
Right.
Penn State has not won a game yet.
Right.
They lost that close game to IU. They lost to Ohio State, which makes sense. And then they got beat very badly by Maryland. And then they just recently lost to also winless, up until that point, Nebraska. So Penn State, even though I'm sure they have good players, is not playing good football.
Right.
IU beat a team that's not playing good football. Then they beat Rutgers, which is, if history is anything to go by, kind of a given.
Uh-huh.
Then they beat Michigan, who is also having a catastrophic season. Michigan, by the way, just lost to Wisconsin by 38
large
points.
Margin.
Yep, which is hilarious. My favorite. I watched a highlights clip of the game where I think it was maybe Wisconsin's second interception in the first quarter. Basically, Michigan's first two possessions, they threw interceptions, and then Wisconsin scored touchdowns on both of them, both of the following drives. Okay, let me back up a little bit. Are you familiar with the game from, I don't remember what year exactly, where Michigan, it must have been, no, I'm not even going to guess because I'll be wrong. Michigan played Michigan State. They were both ranked, but Michigan State was undefeated. The game was at Michigan. Michigan was winning, and it was literally the last play of the game. All they had to do was punt it away and not give up a touchdown, and they would win the game.
Right.
However, Michigan's punter bobbled the snap, and then as he kind of got a hold of it and turned to just desperately kick it away, Michigan State's defenders had gotten to him and basically grabbed the ball from him and ran and scored a touchdown as the clock expired. And that is a huge meme in the college football subreddit. It's because the announcer.
I'm not familiar with that game.
Okay, anyway,
question.
there's a whole backstory.
Tell me about
there.
the game so I can know about it.
Well, that's all there is to it.
That was a joke.
Okay, I see.
Yeah.
But I haven't told you the most important part of it yet.
Right.
Which is that after that play, as Michigan State this game was at Michigan, I think I said that. So there was a lot of Michigan people in the crowd, obviously. And there was this one guy who is on camera. The camera is looking at the crowd after the play, and this one guy is just, hands on his head, look of disbelief and horror at what just happened. And in the Wisconsin-Michigan game from this weekend, after Wisconsin's second interception within the first 10 minutes of the game or whatever, this game was also played at Michigan. They cut away to the crowd, and there was a cardboard cutout of that dude doing that. And
nice.
It was hilarious. It was.
I was wondering
that was
where
a very
that story
long,
was going.
It was a very long lead up, just to that one very minor detail that I find very funny, but is probably just mildly funny if you don't have all of the backstory that I just explained. So.
All right. Well.
Now you know.
Now I know, and I appreciate your evaluation of IU, and we'll find out this week whether they're for real as they play Ohio State.
They're going to get absolutely destroyed.
I sure hope so.
No faith in them. Ohio State is the real deal.
So let me ask you this, what I meant to ask you before we went on this giant tangent. So before Purdue's game this week, did you think they were more likely to win or lose? Just 50, overall, more likely.
I thought it was essentially a 50-50 game that I tipped in Purdue's favor because it was at Purdue, and I don't really believe there's that big a difference between the two teams, even though I think probably most people think Northwestern is the better team.
Right. So that's fair. And I guess Purdue wasn't able to pull it out. But I just wanted to comment that I looked at the poll last week after we recorded our podcast, and Purdue had received votes, which was kind of disturbing to me, not because I disagreed with it, but because Purdue was a football team that was receiving votes in the poll. So, anyway.
Yeah, that's pretty much unheard of as far as our Purdue football experience goes.
Right, so I suspect that after that game they will not be receiving any votes.
No, I don't. In fact, I think the poll is out and they were not.
I think they were just receiving votes because they were undefeated, but they had beaten two bad teams, so... Alright, so we don't need to talk about the Eagles, really, because...
Okay.
They just lost a terrible game to the Giants last night. Or yesterday, not last night.
That is rough.
And they are still in first place in their division. Woo!
Still with a losing record?
3-5-1. Huh?
Yep. You just answered the question.
Right, and they have 7 games left. They have 5 games in a row coming up against teams with winning records. And then 2 games against the NFC East. And so I would say if they win both those NFC East games, which are Cowboys and then Washington football team, they win both those games, then they have a pretty decent shot at winning the division at 5-11-1. And if they win even one of those other games plus those 2, I would say they're pretty much a lock to win the division. So
that is hilarious.
But as we've seen, they certainly could lose all of those, like those 2 division games as well. So it's certainly no guarantee that they'll be in the playoffs. But we shall see. Trying to think if there's anything else sports-wise. I can't think of anything. Can you think of anything?
Let's see. We covered Purdue. We covered the unnecessarily long Wisconsin story. We said some mean things about Indiana. I said some mean things about Indiana. I don't know if you've given up on believing they're good.
No, I think you brought me back down. Like, I was thinking that they're pretty good, but you've brought me down to at least having hope that they're not.
Yeah, well, I did a search real quick while you were talking about the Eagles and found out that Ohio State is favored to win by 21.
21?
Considering it's a top 10 matchup, that's pretty insulting.
That's absurd. By the way, I just said 20.
21. Did I say 20? Maybe for emphasis?
You definitely didn't say 20.
Okay. 21.
Yeah, I think you just said 20.
That definitely feels like what I said. I don't think I would say 20.
So, yeah, I can't wait to see them get shellacked. And if they didn't, send us an email. Where can they find our email, Nathan?
You should be able to just go open up your web browser and type in a little website called alexandalex@joelthepodcast.github.io/alexandalex@joelthepodcast.website. And from there, just click on some stuff until you find a link to send an email, which really shouldn't be that hard.
Should be one click.
Yeah, it should be pretty much anything you click will send us a link. If you have trouble finding something to click, which opens an email, please do send us an email and we will fix that right away.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah. We haven't really done much. In fact, we haven't really done much for our outside the podcast, our kind of our website gimmicks and some other kind of email us jokes that we had going. We haven't done much with that in a little while. partially because I haven't done much of anything in a while. So, if you feel like we should be doing more, that is a reasonable opinion that you're entitled to, but we will probably...
We do not care. Oh.
Yeah. Make our own decisions.
Did we receive any emails this week?
We did not. I was looking at that before the episode. It's been a little while since we received an email, so maybe our website is broken. Beyond repair.
That's the only explanation I can think of.
Maybe we should sue GitHub for blocking our website
for
from
failing
working.
to host our free website.
Yeah. I put a lot of effort into that website.
I do recall that our listener David, when he tried to use the website, it just continuously opened MailTo tabs.
Okay.
When he was trying to use it, so
maybe our website is crashing browsers.
Yeah, I don't know. And the thing, I was able to use it, so I don't know what was wrong with his computer for that. So
no, I don't know.
If that happens to you, just walk to Nathan's house and or his apartment rather, and he'll get you set up.
Yeah, we're also accepting mail. You probably heard a couple episodes ago what my address is, so I'm not going to repeat it here.
Right.
A couple episodes ago? Man, that was probably like 6 weeks ago now, wasn't it?
Yeah. That sounds
Or wait,
about
no,
right.
that was after. I don't know. It doesn't matter. What are we doing today?
So,
Did we tell him
well,
yet?
first, before we get into that, I wanted to. You pointed me to David's study session live stream, and I just wanted to comment on it on the podcast real quick.
Yeah,
because
let's.
this
So
is not
let's get
that
into that real
interesting.
quick.
I guess is. I feel a little bad saying that, but I don't know if this is meant to be interesting.
Yeah.
But he's streaming right now.
If I had to give some feedback about the format here, and first of all, let me just say that he sent me a message earlier today and showed that in the past 28 days, his videos, I think they've mostly been like some of these longer live stream type things of him doing essentially what he's doing right now. He's received in the past 28 days 86 views.
Wow.
So in the past 28 days, this is visible through YouTube Analytics. So out of curiosity, I looked up the statistics for Joel the Podcast. Do you want to hazard a guess as to how many views that we've received in the past 28 days?
10.
No, that is very pessimistic. We did better than that.
50.
Not quite that good.
Okay. So 10 wasn't that far off.
No, it wasn't, but it was,
Just say the number. I'm not guessing anymore.
Okay, the number is 35, which I think is pretty good because we certainly haven't uploaded 35 episodes in the past 28 days.
Right.
And I really only expect like a couple views per episode. So I don't honestly know if the math checks out. Like, is that really true? But that's what YouTube says, and I'm sure YouTube is, I don't know, maybe YouTube's just trying to make us feel good so that we keep uploading. That's probably good for YouTube in the end.
Well, thank you. I guess I'm proven wrong. Because he's received like twice as many views in the past month, even though it's just videos of him studying, as we have.
He looked over at the screen just a second ago, and I thought that might be him noticing that I sent him a message. So I'm going to send him another message real quick and see if we can get some sort of response.
I do have to say, though, I applaud the work ethic, because there's literally no way that I could sit there for 3 hours and study, and it seems like he's on pretty much 3.5 hours at this point. So that's good work ethic. So So good job to him for that.
Yeah, it's definitely good. I was before we got into the views thing, I was going to say that if you were going to shake up the format a little bit, the way I would do it. So I don't know if you watch many streamers, but pretty frequently what happens is there will be kind of he's looking at the screen again and capping his pen and reaching over.
I wonder he might not have it pulled up. Like
maybe he doesn't. I don't actually know what he's putting in an eye drop. Okay.
This is the most exciting thing to happen in 3.5 hours.
So, anyway, what I see a lot of is like a camera of the streamer kind of in the bottom corner, and then most of the stream is taken up by what they're actually doing.
Yep.
So what he could do is have this view just kind of down in the corner, and then a camera above looking down at his paper,
right?
So that we can see what he's writing.
That's a good. That's a good idea.
When I found out he was doing this and like studying physics and posting the videos, I was like, oh, that's cool. I can see what he's doing, but
you can't really
have no idea what he's doing because the book is too far away. It's all blurry, and as he writes, his hand blocks the page. Even if it didn't, I'm not sure if I could.
Yeah, I think that would also be too small to see.
Yeah. So. Anyway,
yeah,
if you're
good suggestion.
If he's looking for some advice from a definitely equally successful YouTube channel,
right? He can do that, and I would say if he does that, he'll probably need some kind of additional light on the paper, and I would say he could hit you up for that since you have a good spotlight he can use.
Yeah, I can tell you right now that whatever light bulb I have in this thing is brighter than the sun, guaranteed to light up your paper.
Guaranteed to burn down your apartment. All right.
Don't leave it pointed at anything for too long because it will combust.
All right. Now maybe we should do the podcast.
Did you know that you can't, if you know how you can use a magnifying glass
I
to
know
focus?
What you're about to say, and yes, I did know that.
Okay. That's fine.
I've read that XKCD What If as well.
Oh, that's from an XKCD. Of course you know that. Yeah. Yes. Everybody probably knows that listens to this then.
No need to say it. I think everyone knows.
We all know what it is.
If you don't know, don't bother emailing us. Just turn off the podcast right now. Just kidding. Send us an email if you want to know.
Yeah. Let me know where I can get some more obscure fun facts, because fun facts are the life of the podcast, and that's where we're about to go right now.
Fun facts are no fun if everyone knows them, so...
Yes.
Alright, here's what we're going to do today. So, I pulled up a website called themuse.com, which I pulled up an article titled 30 Behavioral Interview Questions You Should Be Ready to Answer. So it's just a list of 30 questions that you may get asked in an interview. And we're going to go through and see how poorly we can answer these interview questions. Which will be interesting because... Go ahead.
Just to totally derail you, I looked up some more fun facts because I felt kind of bad that my fun fact got shut down so hard.
You can say it.
And so let me tell you.
Okay.
No, I don't think we need to bother. Obviously, everyone knows it already. But
right.
I bet you didn't know that according to Wisconsin stories, Wisconsin contains more ghosts per square mile than any other state in the nation.
See, I feel like that would be a much more fun fact if it was actually true or provable in any way.
I think it's fun. I'm going to tell David.
It's a fun story. Maybe not a fun fact. All right. I think the next thing you post in this after that should just be 69 W's like 30 minutes later. All right.
All right.
So when I went to this website, I was hoping it would be like more hypothetical questions that they would ask you, but it's really more like, give an example of a time that questions.
Okay.
But I think we can still screw these up. All right, here we go. Number 1. Talk about a time when you had to work closely with someone whose personality was very different from yours.
All right. Definitely the worst thing. There's kind of a compound story you can tell here. Step 1 is to say... There's actually 3 parts now that I think about it.
Right.
Step 1 is to, describe this person, and obviously they've got to have all of these very good qualities that you then say you have the opposite of.
Mm-hmm.
So you're like, oh man, they were so hardworking and honest, and I was like, man, I just wanted to be lazy and plagiarize this whole thing.
Every time I tried to go on Reddit for my entire workday, they would tell me to start working.
So annoying, but somehow I managed to get through it. All right,
they
that's
wouldn't
step
let me
1.
embezzle from the company.
I forgot what step 2 is, but step 3 is to make sure that the outcome of the situation is really dark. So he's looking at
I think in the
screen
end
again.
you just have to have him publicly
He's squinting
executed.
at the screen. He definitely
I
he's
think
reading our messages.
He's reading the comments now.
Yes. If he responds, hi Alex.
Hi
W's.
Alexi.
All right. There, he corrected it to Alex.
All right. So I think in the end, basically either you or him or both get publicly executed.
Yeah, that's definitely the end of the story. Is step 1, they're a good person. You're clearly not a good person. Like I said, I don't remember what step 2 is. Step 3 is, in the end, you killed them so that you could achieve your goals.
I think it's better if step 3 is it was like a murder-suicide, so you killed him and then killed yourself. That way it's evident that your story is completely made up.
That's a good point. It's just proving that you're alive.
It's like a 30-minute story that you could totally made up. And the thing is, you have to keep them on the hook, right? It has to sound, for at least the majority of it, like it's a real story that could actually be related to your job performance.
And I'd say for 90% of it, you probably, even though you opened right out of the gate with oh, I was lazy, I was a bad worker, I was all of this, you've got to keep them on the hook for the point where they're expecting you to say, but we turned it all around, and that's the story of how I'm now motivated.
Right. What you do is at the beginning of the story say, okay, first I want to preface this by saying everything worked out in the end. But here's what happened, and then just at the end when they're like, wait, I thought you said everything worked out, and you said, yeah, we're both dead. How is that not working out? That was the goal.
That's exactly what
or
we
something,
wanted.
something along those lines. Or no, what you really need to say is, yeah, I mean, no work got done, so mission accomplished.
We ended up wasting 2 months and $6 million.
$6 million, and also somehow went through 37 water coolers.
And everyone involved died.
Everyone involved died or is in jail now. All right.
Okay. Yeah, that pretty much covers it.
Question number 2. By the way, I want to preface this question by saying everything worked out in the end. But give me an example of a time that you faced a conflict while working on a team. How did you handle that? I mean, obviously, fist fight is the first thing that comes to mind.
Right.
And whoever is a pussy and ends up in the hospital loses and has to quit. Let's see. What kind of conflict might you have run into?
I'm imagining it would probably be worse if you said that it was a conflict that was clearly caused by you and you were clearly in the wrong.
Right. So I think first of all we need to say that of course every best answer is just going to be you kill everyone involved. But we're going to try and be a little bit more creative than that. So
all right.
I'm thinking that that a good conflict that you can stir up is like you suggest like something that's totally unnecessary, like, hey, let's all leave and go out for lunch on the company's dime, right? And then the other person's like, no, no, just everything the person suggests. It's like, okay, how about we, you do this. How about instead we all leave, and just everything they suggest, you say, okay, what on the other hand, what if we and just leave and go, let's all go to Hooters for lunch.
Right.
So, and then eventually that has to escalate into a fist fight, I think.
You could also, so that's a very workplace way to get into some sort of disagreement with your coworkers. You could also just start committing crimes.
That's a terrible idea. What if instead we just left and all went to lunch at okay, sorry. Committing crimes.
Certain that you were waiting for me to do that, so that you could humiliate me on the podcast.
Consider yourself humiliated. We need your face like a humiliated face, just like a stamp, humiliated.
I was gonna look up a soundboard and try and do some stuff, but that seems like a lot of work, so I'm just not going to.
I also don't think anyone has a humiliated sound clip, which is really the only one we need.
Maybe we should make a Joel the Podcast soundboard.
That sounds like something that I don't know how to do.
What if, since that's such a good idea, what if somebody else did it and then gave it to us?
That is a great idea.
Yeah.
We don't even need to fight over that idea. Send us an email with a link to a fully functional Joel the Podcast soundboard. We give you total permission to use any sound clips from our podcast in it, or sound clips from anywhere else. We definitely have the power to do that. If the government contacts you, or a lawyer contacts you, just forward it to us. We'll take care of it. Alright. So let's go number 3 here, but instead of just kind of saying what the worst thing you could say here is, let's try a little bit of improv and imagine I'm actually asking you this as an interviewer.
Okay.
What are you actually going to say that's the worst thing? So here's the question. Describe a time when you struggled to build a relationship with someone important. How did you eventually overcome that?
Well, I mean, obviously the important person is going to be my dad, right?
Right.
So
he's pretty important.
He's pretty important. From my birth, he's always been, I don't know, an alcoholic, and he was really fighting to stay clean, for me and my siblings, but he just could never really do it.
Right, he was a single dad, so of course he had so many struggles.
Single dad. Yeah, mom just, left the hospital right away. It's like, well, here you go.
I wasn't even completely out and she was getting up and leaving.
She's in the act of having an affair with the doctor while I was being born.
Oh no.
And, it just drove Dad to whiskey. And, so, obviously we had a rough go of it. Me and my 16 siblings from 16 different mothers.
All at the same time.
All at the same. He was a real stand-up guy, and that basically he was doing his best. you really got to feel for him, because I mean, what are the odds really that all 16 of his wives just left him at the same time for 16 different doctors? It's incredible.
They were all. It was just the one doctor. He took all 16 of his wives.
They were just all lined up in the hospital. It was timed down to the day all of his kids were being born, and there was just one doctor who happened to be assigned to all of those births that was just absolutely crushing it with all the moms, to the point where they just left their children and their husbands. Yeah, they were all married. Did they know about each other? Probably, because he was a pretty stand-up guy. He wouldn't hide that.
Yeah,
from
he
them.
wouldn't lie about it. Something like that.
He never lied. He was always very honest with us about how much he hated us and hated his life.
Right, and how many wives he had, which he reminded us all the time was 16.
Exactly. And it was really tough growing up in that environment, because he was always physically attacking us, because let's be honest, we were pretty much the worst.
Let's be honest, we deserved it.
We deserved it. We would pretty much constantly, be sneaking up on him and punching him in the throat.
We were constantly just lighting things on fire.
From the age of 2, as soon as we got teeth, we were just, biting down anywhere we could get on him, as hard as we could.
Also each other.
It was a mess. It was a huge disaster. So
I think it was a bloodbath.
Really, this whole story is not so much about my dad as it is about my 16 siblings who viciously attacked me and each other and my dad. Really, he's the hero of this story.
Right, and I honestly think you need to hear the next part to fully understand where the story is going, because after all of these injuries, my dad went to the hospital, and wouldn't you know it, found love with his doctor.
Abandoning all of his children.
She became our new mom, except that they both left, so we had no mom or dad anymore.
Right. And that's really
And that was the best moment of my life. We were then free to just bite each other and light things on fire as much as we wanted. And so finally, I know the original question was how did I build a relationship with my dad? And the answer is, so what happened is I grew up, right, as you do in a house with 16 children that are all the same age and no parents. And when I became an adult, I thought, you know what? I want to find my dad. So I looked him up, found him on Facebook, saw that he had, a new family and everything, that he clearly loved more than the rest of us.
Clearly. They were pretty much the worst.
And he only had 8 wives this time, so I guess he kind of struggled to rebound from his 16 wife situation, but
had the alcoholism under control. Like, it was, he could typically speak without too much confusion, and definitely was able to walk around a bit more than he used to be able to.
He could recite a few letters of the alphabet before falling over. So I went to see him, and basically the interaction went something like this. Hey, Dad, it's been a long time. How are you again? Give me some more whiskey. And that was it. Then I left, and so I guess that answers your question. I think I nailed it.
Absolutely nailed it. This definitely qualifies me for any portion of the job that you were concerned about.
And what was this job? Couples counselor? Yeah, maybe I shouldn't be here. Alright, here's question number 4. We all make mistakes we wish we could take back. Tell me about a time you wish you'd handled the situation differently with a colleague. Okay, so get this. I was working with my dad. Alright.
I was about 6 at the time, and me and my siblings had really gone on a serious biting spree, so we were helping patch up all the
I was working with this doctor on my dad. Alright. No, we should come up with something new for this one. Tell me about a time you wish you'd handled the situation differently with a colleague. I mean, the obvious thing here is to say a situation where everything worked out, right?
I really wish I had just continued arguing because they were definitely
really wish
wrong.
I just clocked him in the face, honestly. And I know that's maybe not by the book or whatever, but
me and my colleague this was on a sales trip to one of our biggest clients.
Right.
We got there, and we're meeting with the board of this company, and we're trying to land the contract, and it's been a tough negotiation. We weren't their first choice, but we were determined to.
We weren't
to
their
really
first
bring
choice,
it home.
but we were certainly their last choice.
We were definitely their last choice. But somehow we wore them down. We worked on it throughout the day. And I was just about to deliver the closing line to really clinch the sale.
Right.
And I opened my mouth to speak, and my colleague stole the words right from under me. He said literally exactly what I was going to say. And the board of directors, they stood and they applauded, and they were like, "Mr. Colleague, you've just sold us. In fact, I'm going to call. Give me your boss's phone number right now. I'm going to call him and tell him what a great job you just did selling this to us."
They literally tipped him for selling them a product.
And I really, he got promoted. He's now my manager. Everything's been going well for him, and meanwhile I came back and everyone was like, "Oh, great job! You sold the client and everything." And but I know the truth. It was really him all along. So if I could do it all over again, when he started to speak, I would have viciously attacked him and completed the sale myself
with an aluminum baseball bat that I had brought with me.
With an aluminum baseball bat in front of the entire board.
Right.
As they stood in shock and horror, and then I would have turned and delivered the closing line to our sales pitch, which is signing with us would be a home run, and they would have just absolutely lost it, and I would be the owner of our company.
Right, and then if they had said no, I would have hit them in the face with a baseball bat. That's why I brought it in the first place.
Yeah, I was waiting to assault them after they turned us down, but against all odds, I managed to pull it off.
All right, so I think you should put that in David's chat here. Signing with us would be a home run. We just have full of no context this chat full of no context quotes from our podcast, so that when he listens back, he can be like, "Okay, now I can sort of see what's going on here."
Now I understand. Yeah.
That's excellent, and all right. I don't think we could have made a better answer for that question, because I was thinking as the interviewer, I was going to play the interviewer and ask you what the line was. But I felt like maybe you didn't have a line in mind to deliver, so it would have been lame. But then you just delivered the line anyway. So. All right, here we go. Tell me about a time you needed to get information from someone who wasn't very responsive. What did you do? Well, let me tell you, it involved an aluminum baseball bat.
I was interrogating my boss.
I had him tied up in my basement, like you do when you don't get a response from your email within 1 hour, and he really wasn't telling me anything. So I took out the baseball bat, and he became much more responsive. Right. He told me exactly what I needed to know, and that was that. And it turns out everything he told me was a lie, which he just told me so that I didn't hit him with a bat. But the bottom line is I got the information, right? So I think that's a no-brainer right there.
I'm a very effective communicator. That's one of my strengths that I bring to the team.
The interviewer. Wait, so, didn't the police get called? Oh yeah, obviously. But I had an aluminum bat. What were they gonna do?
So anyway, if you noticed a 15-year gap in my work history, that would be the time I spent in prison for assaulting my boss.
and several police officers.
Several police officers.
And it's like, okay, well, we'll let you know. And it's like, great. And if you need any other, Qualky pulls up a bag that clearly just has a metal bat in it. Here are my references.
Yeah.
All right. So that was the category of teamwork. We're now moving on to a different category of questions called client-facing skills.
Ooh.
Here's the question. Describe a time when it was especially important to make a good impression on a client. How did you go about doing so?
So we found out I was in the middle of a meeting with a client. They put me on hold. You know, it was a virtual conference call, of course. They put me on hold. And then we were sitting there for a few minutes, and then they came back on the line and they said, "I'm very sorry. I'm going to have to end this meeting. I've just found out I've got a personal matter to attend to." And what was the question?
The question is, how did you make a good impression on a client?
Oh, why did I decide to go this route? What was the full
so,
question?
Let me finish the story because I know where it's going, right? So
okay.
The client says, I'm sorry, I have to go. I have a personal matter to attend to. And you say, okay, oh no, what's wrong? And you say, you know what? That's private, right? And obviously that was a blunder on my part.
Right.
And you say, okay, well, you know what? If you have any questions, feel free to contact me. Here's my number. And the guy says, I'm sorry, I'm hard of hearing. Can you speak up? And then you say a little, hey, if you have any questions, you can feel free to contact me. Here's my business. Louder, son. And then, you pretty much shout the information.
Right.
And they're so impressed with how loudly you can shout, they buy $1 million worth of paper products from you right on the spot. I'm honestly curious at what point you realized that was not my story.
Louder, son.
I was the direct quotation. Louder, son. As soon as you said
Mr. Buttlicker.
As soon as you said it's a personal matter, I was like, okay, I know where this story's going. All right. Anyway,
I don't remember why I thought this was the direction I should go based on what you said the question was. But essentially, what was going to happen was they were going to say that one of their family members had just been killed in a tragic accident, and it was later going to come out that it was an aluminum bat related accident, and
turns out I had killed him.
Turns out I had accidentally killed them. So strong interpersonal skills to diplomatically handle that situation.
It was a gamble because I thought obviously he'll be upset that I killed his son, but he might be so impressed with my, aluminum bat hitting ability that he may just buy from me on the spot.
Right.
I was thinking when I initially read this question about a time when it was my first meeting with a certain client, and I had heard that he was had kind of a sweet tooth. So I baked him some brownies and just brought them to the meeting for everyone who was there, which is great, except that the brownies were laced with ricin, so everyone there died. And it turns, the problem was really that I had meant to put rice pieces in there, but I had accidentally put ricin there. So,
it's an easy mistake to make.
Easy mistake to make, but I think I made a good impression before he died. I think he liked me at the time of his death, so I think that counts.
That definitely counts. And I will say, to the interviewer, of course, that this probably is a mistake that I could make again. I just want to make that clear. I did not learn a lesson from this.
The bottom line is it was his fault because I did say after he had eaten it that it had ricin in it. The problem was he couldn't hear me because he was deceased. So,
right.
That's really his fault if you think about it.
Yeah.
All right, number 7. Give me an example of a time when you did not meet a client's expectation. What happened, and how did you attempt to rectify the situation? Okay, well, this one's pretty easy. So I went into the sales meeting, right? And I was trying to sell some copiers to this company. And the problem was that what I had told them beforehand was that I sold, I was like an industrial caterer, so I would run their like lunchroom for them. So when I brought up the fact that I did not run an industrial catering company and instead I was trying to sell copiers, it really was kind of a disappointment to him because he was expecting something completely different. And you may be wondering, I know you're probably sitting there thinking, how did he not know in advance? Because, he could just look up your company and find out what it did. Well, what happened was basically I had a buddy who did work at an industrial catering company. I don't know if that's the proper term for it, industrial catering company, but the company that runs your lunchroom, right? Like your cafeteria at your company. Anyway, basically what happened is I murdered the buddy, wore his skin as a jacket, went into the company, forged a fake ID. Then I used that and an email and my buddy's email to set up the meeting. And then when I showed up, I know what you're thinking. You might be thinking, did you wear his skin to the meeting? Obviously not. I'm not an idiot.
He would have known what was going on then. It would have been obvious.
Right. The problem is by that time the skin smelled pretty bad, so he probably would have been upset by how I smelled, and I couldn't have that. So yeah, I guess that's how did I attempt to rectify the situation? I can tell you that it involved a second skin suit. That's all I can say. Involved in some litigation right now, so I can't really disclose the details.
Can't really get into that because my lawyer advised me to not speak of this ever again.
All right. Number 8. Tell me a time when you made sure a customer was pleased with your service.
Not gonna go there.
I was thinking probably something similar.
All right.
Oh,
well,
did you see David responded to our signing with us to be a home run?
No, I didn't. I switched back to my recording
He signed
so I
with
could
us.
see how long we've been going. Sign. What do we say? Do we report him? I clicked the dots next to the message. The options are report or block. Those both seem like pretty unnecessary reactions.
What you should do is you should Google an image of an aluminum bat and just send him a link to the image.
It's a good idea.
All right. So about a time you made sure a customer was pleased with your service. Let's skip that one. Number 9. Describe a time you had to interact with a difficult client. Nah, this is lame. Number 10. When you're working with a large number of customers, it's tricky to deliver excellent service to them all. How do you go about prioritizing your customers' needs? Well, number 1 is I just created a giant spreadsheet. And, I mean, the things I'm putting on that spreadsheet, some of them are certainly important, like, what the customer needs, what the customer's ordered, when they need it by, any complaints they have. But I would say the vast majority of it is just random other stuff, like how my fantasy football team is doing, what the results of the latest election is, how many likes my tweets are getting, how many subscribers my podcast has. It's really just like thousands and thousands of rows of miscellaneous data that I really spend most of my time updating. When I say most of my time, I'm of course talking about at work. When I'm home, I would never update anything like this.
Right, gotta be on the clock to be doing work like that.
Right.
Essentially, what I do at the beginning of each day is sort by a random column in this spreadsheet, and then delete the bottom half of responsibilities, because I don't want to deal with a customer who's unlucky enough for that to be the reason they're being deleted. So, and then we go from there,
The second thing is I look through my emails that I received the previous day, and I write responses to each one, but don't send it yet, because that would seem too eager. Then I generate a random number between 4 and 60, and I set it up so the reply will be sent that many days later.
I'm just imagining if I in real life got a response to a work email 60 days later, I probably would have forgotten about it entirely.
Yeah. My work actually... Go ahead.
I was just thinking that might be a decent way to get rid of some of your work responsibilities, is just don't respond to them until 60 days later, because then after 60 days, whoever you're responding to will be like, oh, well, clearly he did remember, but, like, I don't need this anymore.
Right, and the thing is, if they, like, come to you in person, all you have to have is an aluminum bat. And then the problem solved. By the way, I don't see a link to an image of an aluminum bat in this chat yet.
Wait, really? I sent one.
Maybe it was automatically blocked for spam.
Oh no. Let me send it again, but put a space in between each of the characters just in case it's freaking out that it's a URL.
This is gonna be the most nonsense message ever.
Let's see, I think he's looking at it again.
What do you think he's drinking?
I'm guessing tea.
Let's spend 10 minutes talking about what he could possibly be drinking.
Alright, probably tea.
I'm thinking that whatever it is, there's a decent chance he accidentally put ricin in it when he meant to only put rice in it.
Maybe he was originally intending to drink a cup of rice, but accidentally it's just 100% ricin.
Just the message is now, how's that cup of rice? All right.
I need to wait for him to respond to this.
Well, I still don't see the aluminum bat.
Really?
Message.
Am I like disconnected?
Maybe I need to
or
refresh.
Something?
Nope, still don't see it.
That's bizarre. You should. Are you at the top of the chat? Does it say top chat or live chat?
Top chat.
I think top chat is going to filter out some
live
things.
chat. Okay, I can now see the spaces one.
Right. I think it might be... Anytime I say more than one thing in a row, I think it might be deleting or, ignoring my...
No, because in the beginning you said, hello, I'm Alex, and I'm Alex, and then Wisconsin has more goats per square mile than any other state. So you said 3 things in a row, and they were all there.
Yeah, that's true. Okay. I don't know what it is. I don't know why the default isn't just show all the chat messages.
I can tell you why. If you've ever watched a live video with live comments, like, most of the time the comments are just total spam. In a popular video, like in a video like this, obviously that's not usually an issue, but it's just like somebody posting like the same word copy and pasted like 80 times.
That's a fair point, but
he's seeing the aluminum bat. I think he doesn't know what to make of it.
He just went back to his paper.
All right. Let's, I feel like we didn't spend enough time talking about his drink, but I don't really have any other comments on that, so let's go to another question.
Okay.
Tell me about a time you were under a lot of pressure. What was going on, and how did you get through it?
I was being crushed by a hydraulic press.
And then I died.
I died. It wasn't happening how you would think, though. I wasn't, like, being, pressed by it. It was just, all of it was on top of me.
I have this, there's this other app, and it's called Ribs, and it's not what it sounds like. It's a picture of ribs. Yeah, how did you know that?
It's exactly what it sounds like.
Alright, right, so time you were under a lot of pressure. Okay, so, well, this goes back to my time in prison, because, you may not know if you've never been to prison, but when you first get into prison, you have to join a gang, otherwise you will, be beat up all the time. And so I went to join a gang, and they said I could only join if I killed someone for them to prove my loyalty. Now, the obvious problem here is I didn't have any means of killing them. Because
they took away my aluminum bat when I was
right. They took away my aluminum bat when I was arrested, and it was used as evidence against me. So I unfortunately didn't have that. So I talked to this guy who was kind of like a smuggler, like he could like get you things in prison. And unfortunately, he was not able to get me an aluminum bat, because that would have been my number one choice,
right,
to use for this. But he was able to get me a wooden bat. So basically what happened is I took the wooden bat and I went to attack the guy, but it turned out he wasn't in the same cell as me. And since I was in prison, I couldn't leave my cell. So what happened is then I got a drill from the guy who could smuggle in anything. And this was, we're talking like a very loud, corded drill. So I was able to drill through the wall to his cell. But the problem was that the guards heard me drilling, and they took away my drill and also my wooden baseball bat. So I was not able to use that strategy. So what I did next is I started, every day, like with the spoon they gave me to eat with, I would kind of shave away a little bit at the wall. So that way I would get into his cell, and then I figured by the time I got in, I would have a plan for killing him. And so what happened was I got about 2/3 of the way. The cell wall was about 1 inch thick, so we're talking about 2/3 of an inch here. And this was about 6 months later. And so I got 2/3 of the way, and then the gang he was in, they noticed what I was doing, right? And so they started tunneling through the wall from the other side to kill me, right? So I think you can kind of see where this is going. So bottom line, I think I can skip ahead here. Bottom line is we both ended up with corn cobs in our windpipe and had to go to the hospital, but both survived. So I didn't get into the gang and ended up getting beat up every day for the rest of the 15 years in prison. Does that answer what was the question again?
Something about pressure?
Right. Yeah, so that's how I got through. The bottom line is the pressure was me getting beat up every day, and how did I get through it? Basically, a lot of crying is the answer.
Right. Just as I get through all of my problems.
Indeed.
Prison-related and work-related, you can count on me to just cry until it goes away.
I keep saying Jake and Amir references, but there's a Jake and Amir where it's they're going through his resume, and one of his skills is playing VCRs or playing videotapes, VHSs, and he's like, if it skips, cry till it's fixed was on his resume. All right. Let's make this the last question since we're over an hour here.
Great.
Let's make this a good one.
Okay.
Describe a time when your team or company was undergoing some change. How did that impact you, and how did you adapt?
The company was going through a lot of short-term change due to firing. The reaction was to continue lighting the fires, I think.
Right. And, a lot of the problems were also, we were losing a lot of coworkers to physical injury.
Right.
Mainly aluminum bat-related injuries.
The police were narrowing down on a suspect, so I started to change tactics.
Right. So, anyway, I think, so how did it impact you and how did you adapt? Right. So, how did it impact me? I was obviously the number one suspect, given the fact that I was the one who did it. and you can't legally tell the police that. What says in an interview stays in the interview. I was the number one suspect, so how did I adapt? Well, number one, I got rid of the aluminum bat, and switched over to other means, namely a wooden bat. Now you might be thinking, how would that, really save me? Because, the police would probably see that a wooden bat's not so different from an aluminum bat. And if you're thinking that, you're much smarter than I am, because I did not think of that. So the police pretty much caught me immediately after that, after I got in only 1 or 2 hits with the wooden bat. And how did I adapt after that? I think I told you in the previous question. Lots of crying, I think, is the bottom line.
I adapted by going to prison, continuing to doing the same thing, and still not understanding what adapt means.
There's some good news and some bad news. The good news is the bad news is I forgot it. The good news is we're out of money and we're broke. The bad news is I don't know what the term good news means. That's a Parks and Rec gem there. All right. I think that's enough. I think I've made enough references to outside media to be funny.
Yep.
And enough aluminum bat jokes that it was not funny by the end. All right. If you have any thoughts on this kind of episode, send us an email. Let's go to our website, which Nathan mentioned before, to do that. I'm kind of upset that we didn't come up with anything better to put in David's chat than an aluminum bat. So send us an email with what you think we should have put in his chat.
And we'll put it in there next time.
Right.
Also,
right.
If you have any ideas for what we should do, please let us know.
Please send us an email with a fully recorded podcast.
And then we'll just release it.
And take all the credit.
Right. Actually, if you send us a fully recorded podcast, we will re-record it with our own voices.
Right. So I guess really what would be easier is if you just sent us a script.
Right. It would be a bit more work, though. Maybe they should just send us the podcast.
Now, here's what they should do. What they should do is write a script, then hire voice actors who kind of sound like us to record it, but they're actually funny. And then we post it and claim it's us and take credit.
Perfect. So if we sound a little bit different at some point in the future, that's because we got different recording equipment, no other reason. All right, I think that's the end of the episode.
All right, thanks for listening, everybody. I'm Alex.
I'm Alex.
And this has been our podcast, Joel.